Hello, my name is Dr. Chris McMahon. I took over for Dr. Gaiptman as Maimonides Medical Chief this past year. It's my pleasure to say a few words about Dr. Jack Gaiptman. To begin, I want to say that I will never be able to fill the shoes of Dr. Gaiptman. I can only aspire to be as kind, wise, and effective a leader as he was. And it is certainly clear that I will never demonstrate the fashionable style of Jack, in particular his brown cowboy hat that we will all miss. Dr. Gaiptman began his career at Maimonides over 40 years ago, around the time I was born. That's not supposed to be funny. At the time, the 6th floor was being added. Dr. Gaiptman was the first doctor on the 6th floor, and then he moved to the Helen and Sam Steinberg Day Hospital, which we no longer have, and following that, the 4th floor, and ultimately the 2nd floor, where he has worked the last many years until his last day at the center last month. Dr. Gaiptman enjoyed working at Maimonides immensely. However, like many of us, he found that the work came with its unique challenges. That being said, the challenge motivated him. He became an excellent communicator as a result, even-keeled, calm, and always rational. He recalls a particular story with a family member that touched him. About a year after the resident was admitted, a year consisting of many challenging family interactions, and the resident was now in their final days, a family member said to Jack, "Dr. Gaiptman, I finally realized we're on the same page." Dr. Gaiptman's colleagues describe a man who always went the extra mile, whether it was waiting until a family member arrived in person to give them the latest news about their loved one, or getting the key to the morgue and going with a daughter to see her beloved family member himself, or always calling family members to express his condolences when their loved ones passed away. He was thoroughly empathic and thoughtful. Why stay at a place for 40 years? Well, Dr. Gaiptman says part of the reason is that he always felt fully supported by you, the administration, and he appreciated Barbara Gold's open-door policy and that she always aimed for excellence. Things have changed for physicians in the last 40 years. Dr. Gaiptman says the load is heavier, with residents coming into the center with more complicated cases than ever before. However, he has stayed on as the people he worked with made it worthwhile. Dr. Gaiptman always enjoyed working with the staff, from maintenance to housekeeping to nurses and other professionals. He said Maimonides was like a second family. Dr. Gaiptman admits that he got a little choked up on his final day at the center. Many staff did too. He will miss his second family, and we will miss him even more, especially that signature brown cowboy hat. His medical staff will also miss him. I personally have learned so much from Jack over the years that I've had the privilege to work alongside him. I've worked under many department chiefs in 11 years of practice in hospitals, emergency rooms, clinics. But Jack is one of the kindest and most dedicated colleagues, chiefs, and leaders I've ever encountered. And he's not just pleasant to be around, but he's incredibly knowledgeable and insightful too. I also particularly enjoyed impromptu hallway conversations that we had over the years. He always had stories to tell. And he was always quick to remind me that it's not my fault that I'm not Jewish. I wish he could have stayed on a few more years so I could continue learning from him. I hope he won't mind if I pick up the phone to call him asking for advice in the future.
Please do.
Jack leaves a legacy of caring. He's not just an extraordinary doctor, but he's also an extraordinary human being. And now he can spend more time on one of the great joys of his life, being a father and Zadie to his loving family. For 40 years of incredible dedication and commitment to our residents, we say thank you. Please come up to receive this special gift.
Thank you very much. Anyone? Everybody hear me? Okay, well,
Thank you very much. It was nice to hear all those wonderful things about me, but I'd like to say a few words about why I stayed here for 40 years. I remember when I started to work here, there were certain pluses and there were certain challenges. The pluses were the wonderful staff, both professional and non-professional, the warm atmosphere, and there's one person in particular whom I'd like to mention because it's quite appropriate this evening, and that's Barbara Gold. I'm very proud to say that I was on the search committee that selected Barbara Gold as the executive director of Maimonides. Anybody who's spent even a short time with her will realize very quickly that she is a very wise person with excellent administrative skills, and as Chris has mentioned, an open door policy, which is wonderful. The difficulties, the obstacles at Maimonides were mostly helping families adjust to the trauma of having a loved one admitted to long-term care. It's a very, very difficult situation and brings out a lot of emotions. It's a loss of control. It's realizing that your relative is not doing well. That's the end of the line. Things are not going to get better. And a lot of emotions come out. It can range from a bit of gratitude to anger to frustration to guilt. And these are things that really have to be dealt with to make this a better place and to help the families. I wasn't sure what else I was going to say this evening, but I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning a few weeks ago, and I guess at my age you're allowed to suffer from insomnia once in a while. Turned on the computer and saw a very, very interesting speech given by a Buddhist monk from the Shaolin monastery, I don't know if there's one or more, in Europe. And what he said really struck me. He said that he told an allegory, which really is an allegory about what life is all about. He said, there was a man standing in front of a high mountain. And he looked at the mountain and he said, can I go higher? How can I get higher on this mountain? And if I do get higher on this mountain, will I see more clearly? It goes on and on. He asks various people, and then the story comes out. Everybody has to find his or her own path to climb the mountain. And I would like to say that because of the challenges at Maimonides, I learned a lot about myself, about people. It helped me tremendously in my professional career and in my personal life. So I really would like to say that it's thanks to Maimonides and all the wonderful people here and the people affiliated with Maimonides that I've been able to climb much higher on my mountain and to see things much more clearly. If anybody were to say to me, what would you say to Maimonides and what would you say to everybody affiliated with it, I would say, thank you. I wasn't sure then, but I know why. When I left the door to go to my car my last day working as a clinician at Maimonides, I said, this is wonderful. No more night calls, no more weekend calls. I don't have to worry, oh my gosh, I got to go home. I forgot my cell phone. Somebody might call me. But then I sat down in the front seat of my car and the tears started to trickle down. I'll miss this place. I'll miss you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris, and congratulations, Dr. Gaiptman. Wishing you a long and healthy retirement. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Danny Baum, past Foundation President, for the next presentation.